This is a chi-squared exam question linked to inheritance. It says a chi-squared test is carried out on the experimental data to determine whether the hypothesis is supported. Now, the hypothesis is that flower colour, red, pink and white, is determined by a codominant gene. So a single gene with codominant alleles. Now, our expected ratio for a codominant genetic cross is 1 to 2 to 1. Our observed numbers are given here from our investigation data. We've got to calculate our expected numbers based around this ratio. So our total number of flowers is 260. We've got 4 parts in a ratio 1 to 2 to 1, so 260 divided by 4, and for the first part we've got to times it by 1, so that's an expected value of 65. For the pink, we're timesing it by 260 divided by 4 times by 2, so that's 130, and the white is a ratio of 1, so it's the same as red flowers, so that's 65. 260 divided by 4 times 1. All three of them numbers add up to 260. So we've now calculated our expected. It says the chi-squared statistic is calculated in the following way. So chi-squared equals the sum of observed minus expected squared divided by expected. So that's the equation. We've now got to use that equation to calculate the value of chi-squared. Now I would always add extra columns to this table so that you can do your calculations at the side of the table, and that'll make it easier for when you're doing the sum of. So observed minus expected, 62 minus 65 is minus 3. 131 minus 30 is 1, and 67 minus 65 is 2. So that is observed minus expected. If we then take that number square it and divide by expected, so observed minus expected squared, which will get rid of any negatives, divided by expected, our values are 0.138, 0.007, 0.061. We then need the total of these values, so we've got 0.138 plus 0.007 plus 0.061. We want the sum of those, so that equals 0.206. So that's our chi-squared value. Remember to split this calculation up so you're not trying to do it all at once, and therefore possibly making mistakes when you're inputting the data on a calculator. It says the critical value of chi-squared for this type of investigation with 2 degrees of freedom is 5.991. So you're given the critical value. You're asked to explain whether your answer supports the hypothesis. Well, we need to compare our calculator value against the critical value. So we're comparing 0.206 against 5.991. And if our calculator value is lower than the critical value, our hypothesis is supported. So 206 is smaller than the critical value of 5.91, so we can say that 0.206 is smaller than the critical value, and that's 5.991. Therefore, we support the hypothesis. The hypothesis was that flower colour is determined by a codominant gene, single gene with a codominant allele. So ratio 1 to 2 to 1. This is our observed data, and that proves that our hypothesis is correct.